Thank you very much for finding the right place. We're going to kick off nice and sharp. I know a couple of councillors have already said that they need to leave by a certain time, and I know we'd all prefer to be enjoying the beautiful sunshine, so we are going to rattle through tonight as fast and as efficiently as we can. So, kicking off then. Oh, let's pull it closer, shall I? How's that? Yeah, okay, we're good. All right. Any apologies received, please?
Yes, we have apologies from councillors Olwell, Corbyn, Hocking, Milosh, Riddle, Rogers and Sutherland.
Thank you very much. And any public questions or statements tonight?
None have been received.
Thank you. Any councillor questions or statements?
None have been received.
Super. And minutes of previous meetings, already had a chance to look at them, and are we happy? Yeah. Wonderful. I'll sign this at the end. Thank you. Any declarations of interest?
None have been received.
Dispensations?
None have been given.
Thank you very much. Right, I did ask the Mayor for her update for the evening. She's sorry to not be able to join us tonight. She's had a very busy couple of first weeks, opening people in the park, visiting the newly refurbished Rifles, Berkshire and Wiltshire Museum, and going to a Silver Salisbury event as well. She says to follow her on Facebook for more updates. And over to the administration leader for his announcements.
Thank you, Chair. Just a very quick one from me. I just wanted to give you an update, or rather that there is no update on the central car park toilet asset transfer. I know it's a subject of much interest. Just to know that there is nothing outstanding on the City Council side. I think we are waiting for Wiltshire Council officers to formally present the offer, at which point it will come to us for ratification. It's frustrating that we've not had it's not sort of progressed faster, but it's not for lack of anything that we are doing here. So, thank you.
Okie dokie. So committee memberships for this new year.
Good evening, everybody. These are just to note. They should be on the screen, Penny. Thank you. To note our committees for this year, obviously we have full council. We have the Finance Committee meeting, the Finance Committee, the Planning Committee, Environment Committee, Communities Committee, the recently newly named Commercial Services Committee, and the Governance, Policy and HR Committee. It's just to note for members who are in those committees, and if you wish to make any amendments or to talk about those committees, then we must do so in the correct way. Thank you.
Okay, so my understanding is that group leaders have discussed committee membership with their parties and everybody's happy. It's my understanding. And so we're going to note that and move on. Thank you very much. Okay, minutes of committee meetings taking place since last full council. Again, committee members, are you happy that these are accurate reflections? Can we take them on block, please? Lovely, thank you very much. Right. Updates from outside representatives. I'd love to hear from everybody on this, but can we keep it short and sharp and focused, please? So, Councillor Johnson, have you got anything to start with? Short and sharp and efficient.
So DIGS have continued to provide drop-in surgeries with 9 clients supported across 3 locations in Salisbury. Their one-to-one consultations are also in strong demand, with 9 sessions already booked in for early June. These vital services deal with complex issues for our disabled residents, their carers, benefit claims, housing, adult social care needs, send help and signposting for children out of school. So DIGS Red Cord campaign, which is supported by this council, has received national coverage on the BBC as well as local coverage. It's attracted interest from Wiltshire Council, and Amesbury Town Council are also looking to adopt it. Finally, Kes's treatment ends on the 28th of May, so please keep everything crossed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Rideout.
I'm actually having a meeting on Thursday, so not a lot to report. There is still 231 people waiting for an allotment, and we still do have allotment sites that are not fit for purpose that we need to get on top of, but I will feed back to everybody next time.
Maybe we can bring that to Environment Committee next time. Councillor Sam Charleston.
Thank you. The big news from Wiltshire Creative, it's a bit old news now, but it is big news, is that they were successful in their bid for funding from the Arts Council. So it's £3 million towards the refurbishment of their building, which is obviously really exciting news, secured in part because of the matched funding placed by organisations including Salisbury City Council. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you. Councillor Foster.
Nothing since the last full council meeting on Salisbury City today.
Super. Councillor Ball is not with us. Councillor Nettle or Brown, do you have anything on the conservation panel?
Well, I give my apologies for those of me, so Councillor Brown might have something.
Yes. I did go to the last one, and I have to report that I found it very enlightening because it was my first one. And just, I think all I wanted to say is the important work of buildings which are in danger, and how many there are, and how enforcement is a very difficult thing for Wiltshire. So that's what I learned. Pass that on.
Thank you. And back to you again for the LH Fig update.
I think I'll defer this one to Brian because he's on it as a Wiltshire councillor, and so then you can speak.
Well, all I can add, Chair, is the next meeting is next week, but it's going to be chaired by Paul Sutton.
Lovely. We'll skip it to the next one. And finally, floods. Myself, I have nothing to report. Oh, sorry. Apologies. Right. Councillor Hawkins says the updated flood plan has been approved by this council. I note, however, it's not been uploaded to the council website. So I'm sure grateful if this could be done soon. I continue to lobby Wiltshire Council Flood Team and the Environment Agency through the quarterly operational flood working group south of my concerns around flood water management. Both organisations seem wedded to the process whereby flood water is held back, whereas in my opinion, an experience of the floodplain can only hold so much water before it is saturated, and any further significant rainfall has nowhere else to go. At present, the most vulnerable point is through the Cathedral Close and into the Friary. Both organisations should be allowing floodwater to flow away through the south of the city when conditions allow, and there are no risks to properties further downstream. Third update from Sven, the document referenced in the floodplain Salisbury Flood Plan Emergency Planning Support remains out of date 2019 and we're requesting that this is addressed. There we go. Again, it's probably one to take to Environment Committee. Righty-ho, that's all of that. So may I please invite Philip Wilkinson, our Police Crime Commissioner, up to give us an update. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. You galloped through that. That was very impressive. Well done. So thank you for inviting me tonight. What I would like to do is give you an update on where we are at with a new policing hub for the south of the county. And to do that, I need to put it a little bit into context, because there's a lot going on politically and strategically, which will have an impact or could have an impact, and I need to try and plan for the unintended consequences of not having a police station in the south of the county. So if you think that we currently have English devolution that we're trying to manage from a policing perspective, which is Swindon Borough going north to join Thames Valley and Wiltshire Council going south to join Dorset and some rural areas of Somerset. That will place huge pressures on Wiltshire Police Force, and as we speak, Lord Hogan Howe is doing a review of the sizes of police forces in this country. And Lord Hogan Howe was the Commissioner for the Met Police. he is clearly intending to form bigger police forces, even though there is no evidence whatsoever anywhere to suggest or to indicate that bigger forces deliver better than smaller police forces do. We can see that with Police Scotland, with the Met Police, with Manchester Police, which has just been put into special measures, whereas we have come out of special measures a number of years ago. So that is a factor that I have to consider, which is the long-term future of Wiltshire Police Force. I have not been given any indication, but I am, as you can imagine, pressing ministers and the Home Secretary for an early indication of what the intentions are. There is also police reform, which is wrapped into getting rid of the role of the PCC, replacing him if they establish new larger strategic mayoral authorities by politically appointed deputy mayors. I think that's a disaster waiting to happen, and it will potentially politicise police forces, and it will take away the direct democratic accountability that you have by holding me to account, to hold the Chief Constable to account. So that's not good. And then we have reform of the probation service and the new custody, the new sentencing guidelines. And we've seen in the last couple of days what can happen. But if they are going to let any offender out early, or they're not going to lock people up for sentences less than 1 year, who is going to manage those offenders while they are in the public domain? Who is going to manage the victims and the witnesses? And we currently have delays where we have serious sexual offences and rape, where the court cases are now taking 3 years from offence to getting in front of a judge. That is going to put huge additional strain on police forces and probation service. And when I asked the Minister of Justice, would there be any additional funding for this, I was told no. Is there any additional funding for police reform? No. So how on earth we are going to cope is a serious challenge. What I suspect is going to happen is many of these strategic issues will be pushed back up against the next general election and maybe beyond. So in many ways, what I'm trying to do, and I'll be at a meeting in London tomorrow, is try and set the strategic environment post the next general election, that whatever is decided is best for the residents of Wiltshire. So the police station, Southern Policing Hub. We all know, you all told me, within 5 minutes of taking this job, that Warren Hill was not fit for purpose. And the police knew it wasn't fit for purpose. And they were extremely frustrated that they were not able to deliver what they knew you wanted because it wasn't fit for purpose. And the reasons are obvious. There is no security. There is no secure place to park cars. There's nowhere where we can interview offenders or victims. There is just not the resources there to have a modern, all singing, all dancing policing hub. So, we've spent 3 years where every time anybody rang me up and said, there's the old GPO depot at the end of Fisherton Street, and I whizzed down there, paced it out, and it was less than an acre. For a policing hub, a proper all singing, all dancing policing hub, without custody, we need 4 acres. With custody, we need 6 acres. And that is what I have now bought at Old Sarum, at Old Ford Farm, subject to planning, is just over 6.5 acres. I remember at a previous meeting, and it's Councillor Huck who said to me, if you can get 6 acres, that will keep your options open. Well, it's really important now because Bourne Hill is leased, and should Wiltshire Police Force reorientate southwards, there will be no major policing hub between Devizes, Poole, Bournemouth and Bovington.
I'm terribly sorry, Mr Wilkinson, but just to warn you, you've had 5 minutes of your 10 minutes time.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
so there is that problem. So we've got the 4 acres subject, 6 acres subject to planning, and we are now going through all of the various planning processes, 33 different reports we have to produce. Hopefully, we will have that all complete and in time to get it in by the end of August. We're engaging with Wiltshire Council planners. It all looks pretty positive. I've met with Laverstock and Ford, with Amesbury councils. There was broadly we had support. I briefed both MPs, broadly support. What I will be able to do on Monday is to let you see and to distribute broadly my entire campaign plan to engage with the public, a broad-based public engagement that will include indicative drawings of what the police station is going to look like. It will take nearly 2 years to get planning, I anticipate, which will be the middle of 27. We would like to think that we will be able to continue the consultation to provide you with the technical requirements or the technical briefings that you will need, so that we have a spade in the ground sometime towards the end of 2029 and a new southern policing hub by 2030. That will give the south of the county a proper all-singing, all-dancing, self-sustaining police station, police hub that will cover all political contingencies. And I'm very keen to take any questions, concerns you have. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, everybody, so opening up to questions. Please, if we have questions, and if somebody's already just said what we wanted to say, please hold your peace. Thank you very much. So, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Rideout.
Just a very quick one for confirmation. There will be cells then, and also at the new police hub.
No, at this stage, we are not planning to have a custody suite. We will keep the option open. And of course, we are working hard to persuade the government to change the police funding formula. If Wiltshire Police was funded to the national average, I would have 49.6 million to add to my budget of 180. I could then build a custody suite and afford to have the 24 officers and staff available to manage. At the moment, so the answer is no. If the chief pushes and if we can find the money, we will have custody.
My question, why we're not having a custody suite?
Councillor Sample.
Can I ask the Police and Crime Commissioner whether he would like his daughter or son to be transported from Salisbury in the middle of the night by van to a cell on the other side of Wiltshire, and for them then to be left there until they were either collected or found their own way out?
It will be an operational decision for the Chief Constable to decide whether she would wish to have custody and to man custody by taking 24 plus officers and staff off the street. I find your question about my family offensive and totally unnecessary.
Madam Chairman, I've actually dealt with parents who've been in that situation in my capacity as a magistrate, and I think it is shameful that the Police and Crime Commissioner cannot see this from the perspective of justice and from the perspective of those people who unfortunately find themselves, for whatever reason, arrested in the centre of the city and then find their way onto the other side of the county. I'm sorry that he's offended, but this is an issue which has been going on now for years. We were promised it would be sorted out, in double quick time under his leadership, and it's clear that that's not going to happen.
Thank you, Councillor Sample. Councillor Hock.
Could I just point out, we have never said there would be a custody suite. We've always said we would consider if we could find the additional
Thank you.
funds.
Okay, Councillor Hock.
Thank you for your presentation. So now that he's reassuring that there is space for custody suite, so what will be the holdup? What is the code? Because I mean, obviously this police hub has taken a lot of concentration, a lot of funding is required, and you have got that funding, but what sort of additional money or holdup that the police custody cannot be achieved?
Thanks, that is an acceptable question, of course it is. It is all a matter of finance, and as I've made clear, if we were funded to the national average, I would have an additional 46.9 million to add to my budget. We pay the lowest precept in the southwest of England. My central government grant is the lowest in the country. I receive in my budget for Wiltshire Police Force £249 per every resident of Wiltshire. The national average is 317 per head of population. We do not have the money. The fact that Wiltshire Police Force is now, Wiltshire, I beg your pardon, is now the safest, we've got the lowest or second lowest crime rate in the country, but with the second lowest, we are the second lowest funded police force, is huge credit to Wiltshire Police Force. And I have confidence that the Chief Constable will make the right operational decisions. If we can get the extra money, we will have custody. If not, then I'm afraid we won't.
Councillor Dalton.
Chair, thank you, and congratulations in your post this evening anyway. Just to say to the PCC, I sort of applaud the way you're going forward, should I say. We definitely need a station in Salisbury. I hope we get the custody suite for the reasons that Councillor Sample said to my right down here. But it just begs the question, and it wasn't under your watch, sir, but it just begs the question, why the hell did the police station at Wilton Road close in the first place? We must be the only city, probably for miles around, if not counties around, that doesn't have a dedicated police station and custody suite. And God forbid the time comes when somebody is arrested for whatever reason, right or wrong, and gets transported, 30 miles north and having to make their own way back. We were told at the time that the police station was closed here to save £500,000 a year. Was it worth it? No.
Councillor Rimmer.
Thank you. I just want to say that I think it's great that we're moving forward on this, and it's great that we are moving toward having a police station, because, as we all know, the situation at the moment isn't great, and the Porton Hill police station, as it currently is not up to the right standards. So it's important that this happens. I also share others' concerns about a custody suite, but I also think it is important that we listen to the trade-off that is required for that, because if we do have the funding, it's still at the point that the Police and Crime Commissioner made, that there's a huge number of police officers who are then manning that custody suite rather than doing what people think of as traditional police work. So it's not just a case of having a custody suite equals good and not having one equals bad, because there are definitely trade-offs in both directions, and I think it's important to recognise that. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Mr. Wilkinson, for joining us. You felt the mood of the room, and we look forward to having you back again at another time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeff. I made, but thank you. Good evening.
Okay, we now have representatives from Highways England here to speak to us about the A36 and Southampton Road. So again, we've got a presentation, and I'll ask you for questions at the end. Just to note, and I know the team at the end will be saying this is our first opportunity to see these plans. There will be further opportunities, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. If I may, just a slight correction, we're National Highways. No, that's quite all right. Many people in this room do know me already, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to come before you. If I may just introduce some of my colleagues. I've got Ben Atwell, who's one of our principal engineers for a scheme that we've been working on. Terry Preston, who's a project management specialist, who'll be pushing things or our work forward. And Ian Thompson, who's the stakeholder manager for the Southwest. We thank you for the opportunity to come before you and share some of the work that we've been concentrating on. National Highways, for those that don't know, we are a government company and we are funded in 5-year, they're called RIS, Road Infrastructure Schemes, periods. So our funding is for 5 years and we've just entered the first year of that RIS period. The emphasis set from central government and the DfT is that we are very much in a repair and maintenance phase. So the opportunity to build new infrastructure is limited. And I think it is fair to say, without second guessing, that going forward, without a miraculous recovery in the country's finances, we are likely to be in repair and maintenance phases for a good number of years to come. So that being said, we are very mindful that we have the A36, which is we term it as the Strategic Road Network, the SRN, so forgive me if I use that terminology, running right the way through your city. That carries traffic which is connected to UK PLC is the term that you've heard me use before, so strategic traffic, but it also carries an awful lot of local traffic. And we are very mindful that we need to look at ways to best improve capacity on that road. And by improving capacity, it will improve journey time and reliability for you within the city. So we have been looking at ways where we may be able to make these improvements, and we have identified the stretch of the SRM between College Roundabout and Bourne Way. And we have been working on a scheme, and it's a very high level overview that I wish to give you tonight, with a view to you then having a greater discussion about whether or not you wish us to continue spending our money on developing that scheme, or perhaps we don't, and we look elsewhere. So we have an opportunity within the RIS period that there is a central fund of some £200 million, which is part of our small schemes pot in effect. So each scheme, there's going to be probably 8 schemes across the country, each of about £25 million, where we have the opportunity to make some significant improvements to the SRM. So part of my role is that I've been advocating for the City of Salisbury, and I have basically been knocking on doors to get us involved in what is a competition to develop a scheme to give us access to some of that funding. It is all very much subject to funding being available, and one of the criteria is that the RIS period is 2026 to 2031. Ricky, if you want to come in and sit down, I'll continue. So one of the criteria for this scheme is that it has to be delivered and open for business by 2031. So we are up against it, and this is why I'm very grateful for Terry's expertise in this matter. So if you wish us to continue, we will need to work with you very closely with you to ensure that we can deliver. Ben, is that a good opportunity to hand over to you to give an overview of what we're looking at?
Can I just confirm you want this slide up right now? Is there, or should we be further along in the presentation?
Next slide would be great, thank you. So this sketch, I appreciate it's a bit dull on that screen there, but you will get the presentation sent out after the meeting. But this sketch indicates the design proposals at this stage for reconfiguring and signalising College Roundabout. Through enlarging the roundabout, additional lanes, it's just turned off. Oh, full screen, even better. Through enlarging the roundabout, additional lanes will be added on each of the entry and exit arms, and the 2 existing segregated left turn lanes will be reinstated. There will be 2 to 3 lanes on the roundabout circulatory, all of which will be controlled by signals to help manage the traffic. These measures will allow more vehicles to pass through the junction at any one time, and reduce delayed journey times on both National Highways A36 route and the local authority network. Next slide, please. Now, to accommodate the improvements that this reconfigured junction will create, the roundabout footprint will be increased, and that will require additional land to the west from Wiltshire Council, as well as additional land to the south from Salisbury City Council. And at this stage, we're looking at needing 2,500 metres squared, or a quarter of a hectare of land from within Churchill Gardens. Next slide, please. And where the roundabout is widened to the west and to the south, there will regrettably be impact on the green estate, including impact on trees. At this stage, we're anticipating about 25 trees would be affected by the scheme, 15 of which would be in Salisbury City Council's land, and 10 of which would be in Wiltshire Council's land. Next slide, please. However, environmental mitigations will be put forward once various ecological and agricultural surveys have been conducted, and we're looking to program in those surveys this summer, and they will be used to help inform the design development, including landscaping design, which will include such items as replacement tree planting. Next slide, please. In terms of active travel, there is the existing National Cycle Network Route 24, which runs through Churchill Gardens and the vicinity of the proposed scheme. Depending on the final layout of the scheme, this route could be affected, but where it is affected, we will mitigate that or better the facility that we impact.
Can I just make your way halfway through your time? Thank you.
Thank you. Next slide, please. As well as mitigating the impacts on active travel, we are looking to make enhancements to the active travel in the area. And this will be achieved through an active travel funding stream, which is currently being explored. Various design options have been considered to date for improvements to the active travel. One of these include the widening of the Salisbury Park Run route by an additional 2 metres, thereby increasing or allowing total path width of 5 metres around the perimeter of Churchill Gardens. This option would also include replacement lighting and additional CCTV to the Greyfriars Close underpass. We also look at providing a single-stage toucan crossing across Southampton Road near to the junction of Tollgate Road, and replacing the existing 2-stage staggered pedestrian crossing. We also look to provide a toucan crossing to the west of Bourneway roundabout, replacing the existing uncontrolled crossing in that area. Next slide, please. Now, we haven't really spoken about Bourneway yet, but should sufficient budget be available after accounting for the improvements of College Roundabout, we have a scheme 1 kilometre to the east of College Roundabout at Bourneway Roundabout, which would be to provide a segregated left turn lane for westbound movements along the A36. This will give free flow movements for westbound traffic that can bypass the roundabout. We'd also be looking to, as part of the same scheme, install a toucan crossing to the west of the roundabout, as well as a formal bus stop lay-by. However, note that traffic modelling has indicated that the improvements proposed at College Roundabout are where the most benefit is in terms of alleviating congestion. So if sufficient budget isn't available, then Bourneway Roundabout would not be part of the overall project. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Ben. So in terms of our project timeline, this is very much an estimate. So this financial year, we're working on our prelim design, which is a very high level design following our options phase. Towards the end of this financial year, so in about March 27, maybe Jan 27, we will then enter the planning process. We will submit a planning application to Wiltshire Council to develop the scheme. This will be our consultation phase, but before all of that, we will begin some engagements. We'll be going out with our chatty van to help gain some stakeholder views and help shape our prelim design throughout this year. Following that, we will have a detailed design phase, providing we have got a successful planning application to further work on our design to a detailed design standard. All of that will then allow us to go out to tender and mobilise. So indicative assessments will show that construction will be about 18 months. That is a high level view that we have at this stage, and that will be refined throughout the prelim design process. We are expecting that construction will start in about winter of 2028 and then end in autumn 2030. So that will be 18 months. However, that could change as we get further through the prelim design phase. And well, we will obviously continue to update. Thank you.
Could I just make you aware you've had your 10 minutes, but please do keep going. I think we're all interested. But thank you.
I think that's.
Oh,
Don't go.
that's you done, is it?
You can't teach it, it's 10 minutes.
Fabulous, fabulous, excellent. Well done.
In terms of questions, thank you. In terms of questions, I appreciate that you probably like to discuss this at length, and we are not looking for an answer to come away with today. And Mostyn has agreed to gather your thoughts and report to us in the fullness of time. But I would encourage you, please, we are up against it in terms of time. So what we're asking tonight, it sounds like one of those awful sales pitches on the television, doesn't it? In principle, this is what we are looking at doing for Salisbury. There is nothing else that we can really push forward to improve the traffic flow through Salisbury. It's kind of this, or we stick with what we've got. It is a competitive process that we're in, so I'm not making any promises to you tonight that we are going to do this, but we are in the contest to get this done. In terms of what Ben said, £25 million, whilst it seems like a lot of money, it isn't for this sort of engineering. So we need to be sparing, we need to be realistic in what we are looking to achieve, to achieve, you know, both roundabouts being improved. Terry mentioned there that we used the term the chatty van. Now, the chatty van was something that we put out actually in Salisbury a couple of weeks ago for consultation and engagement with the public about the two pedestrian overbridges. It was a very successful approach, and Sharon just told me tonight that there's been over 800, nearly 1,000 responses, which in terms of engagement for national highways, I think is quite remarkable. So we will be back to do that with the public, to answer your questions. And the reason I'm labouring this point is because I do not want our project team to be bogged down with freedom of information requests on a design that is far from complete. So we will be back to talk to you. You know, we're at the initial stages. As the design develops, as we've listened to the responses from people in Salisbury and your good selves, that will be incorporated into the design, and we will take that forward into the detailed design phase. Ian, have I missed anything?
No, I just think it's important to say with the footbridges, we've got lots of FOIs. They go to the engineering team that are trying to take that scheme forward. Mostyn has our contact details. Sharon, I know we work with closely on the footbridges. If any of you got any questions, please obtain our details from Sharon and Mostyn, and we'll answer it directly. It saves up, if you go through the official protest, it takes up a lot of our time. So really what we're saying to you tonight is, as Chris has said, we're not asking for a decision tonight. You've had a high level briefing. We either do this for Salisbury or you choose to leave it as it is. We're not trying to sell it, but if you want this, the impetus is we need to get on with it. We have to be complete by March the 31st, 2031. So we're on your side. We're spending quite a bit in Salisbury at the moment. A36 in Salisbury is important to us, and it really is up to you as members to make that decision. We need to push you along with it. So thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, we'll take Councillor Wells and Councillor Nettle, Councillor Hock, and then Councillor Bellers.
Hello, is that working? Just a question about the bidding process and the decision about where the money goes. As part of the assessment of the value of each project, will there be account taken of journey times from one location to another passing through Salisbury? Because it's very much not just about congestion in our city, it will be about journey times from, say, Southampton to Bristol. Will the impact of this project, is there some way of calculating that as an argument for pushing it forward?
I'll try and answer this one, but Ben may be best placed. There will be detailed traffic modelling that does take into account the journey time around the city and to onward destinations. In terms of that decision-making process, everything has to have a benefit-cost ratio, and that will be incorporated into that final figure which is used for it. So yes, will be. We don't want to get bogged down in traffic modelling tonight.
Councillor Nettle?
Yeah, not surprising, a similar sort of question. It's £25 million. I appreciate you could spend it anywhere, and thank you for thinking of Salisbury. I'd quite like to know what the business case is, or the validation of the work that you're doing and the improvement to the flow of traffic. And I suppose, I'm not asking for that tonight, by the way, I just wonder if that kind of information is available.
Yeah, in the fullness of time, as we get towards the detailed design, that the business case will become clearer. Very early indications are that, we're looking at, if I was to use a woolly term, significant journey time improvements along Southampton Road and through the city. But as Ben said, the incorporation of the new, Chris's favourite topic, traffic lights, the mover system right the way through which is the next iteration of traffic lights through the city, will help improve that flow right the way through Salisbury to join it up completely.
And Councillor Hock?
Yes, thank you for your presentation. We've met a few times. It's really good to know, but one of the things is I'm sure we are going to be with you in this project. I'm sure everybody will support, because it is a very important roundabout, and it's quite important for us to have that clear roundabout. So my question is, in your professional level, what is the main obstacle or obstruction should that not go ahead?
From an engineering perspective, and I'm not an engineer, so forgive me, we have to manage the risk, and the greatest risk. And everything we try and do when we're delivering national infrastructure, we try and minimise the impact, minimise the footprint of what we've got. And we are very mindful that within Churchill Gardens, it's a very ecologically sensitive, it's parkland. We don't want to destroy it. But in terms of the ecology side of it, we're very mindful not to impact upon what we've got there. So the chalk streams, yes, we will have to, we will have to touch these trees, but we will look to offset that elsewhere. But I think the ecology is probably our greatest engineering risk. And as we go up towards the Bourne Way roundabout, there's going to need to be some clever engineering to essentially widen an existing structure, which is a bridge. So we are looking at ways which can be done using cantilevers and without necessarily needing to stick new piles in the ground. But again, Councillor Hook, we're at the early stages, and until we get into the crux of the detailed design, we won't be able to report back to you how we're going to do it.
Very quickly, the only reason I was saying is, even though there might be a time where even you got full support from Wiltshire Council and Salisbury, but there might be other reasons that can be obstacles. So that was the reason I wanted to know. Thank you.
If the other reason is public objection to it, we obviously have to listen, and we will come back and have a further discussion about that. If that's what you're alluding to.
Councillor Bayers, back to your hand up.
Thanks. Thanks for the presentation. This is of particular interest to me because it's in my division. It's good to hear that these improvements are potentially going to be made to improve traffic flow, because I'm getting it in the ear constantly from my residents in Rampart Road and Tollgate Road, where they're running through from the bottom of Kelsey Road through to Tollgate Road when it comes back onto the A36. Cars damaged, road rage incidents, all sorts of stuff going on. And I can't see really any other solution other than speeding up traffic on the A36. So yes, I'm in favour of this, and it's good to hear you've taken Park Run into consideration, because that's another area of interest to me, and actually enhancing it by potentially making the paths wider.
Councillor, if I may, we do work very closely with Wiltshire Council. Obviously, those roads that you've mentioned, that's your network, or Wiltshire's network, not ours, but we are working with Wiltshire to see if we can incorporate elements of our design into what they want to do to hopefully improve some of that running.
Councillor Rimmer.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to say I think it's great that this is being brought forward, and I think it's something that definitely needs to happen. We all know how bad the traffic is around there, and I've got lots of friends in other places who say, whenever I live in Salisbury, they say they've only been there stuck in traffic on the outskirts of Salisbury. So I'm very keen to see this happen. This isn't, of course, your fault, but I just think it's depressing that we sit here in 2026 and we're talking about changing a roundabout, and it's going to take the best part of 4 years. It's just depressing that as a country we've got to a situation where that's the length of time it takes, and that it costs 20 whatever million quid to do it. Thanks.
And Councillor Brown.
Yes, I laud the efforts, anything to help with that. Just a question, and I know it's not time for traffic modelling and all the rest of it, but I'd just like to put this out there as someone who commuted along that road from the other end into Salisbury along the A36, that are you convinced that the evidence is showing that the roundabouts will have, improving them, widening them, will have a big traffic flow impact when there's such a bottleneck already when you come into Salisbury from the Southampton end, when it goes from a dual carriageway down to a single lane all the way through to College Roundabout? And it seems that's the elephant in the room. And will we just be moving people from a pinch point here to 5 yards up the road? That's my question. It just seems, I'm sorry to be annoying.
Yeah, no, I know the stretch which you're referring to, and it's the question of merging turn and perhaps some sort of driver behaviour which is slightly outside of our remit. We're not, with the best will in the world, I'm going to be very stark with you, there is not the funds to increase that, that dualling there. So we are looking at doing the best improvements that we can and quantifying the improvement in terms of journey time, and we're not talking about making journeys 5 miles per hour faster, because that's not what we want through an urban environment, but the consistent journey time is what we will be looking to model, and then when the detailed design is more complete, we may be able to come back to you. We're making promises here, Ben. We may be able to come back to you and say, look, journey time across this stretch of the city may be improved on average by a figure of X.
Councillor Foster and Councillor Bevan.
Thank you very much. And as somebody who has abandoned the Lasagna because of that traffic, I was not willing to go back through it again to go back for it. So I know the trauma it can cause. In terms of, as you say, we're pushed against time, 2031, got to hit, and not necessarily going back to the timeline, but as well as sort of wanting support today and supporting it, at what point are we safe? Or is it sort of in 2030, we're halfway through the spatering, can someone still pull it away? Just sort of curious at what point do we need to keep moving, and then finally this is going to happen, we can all relax and enjoy the benefit when it comes.
So we've secured funding for this financial year to build our preliminary design. We will then go back, it's the investment decision committee, of which Ian will know slightly more. We will go back to them and say, look, we have got the support of Wiltshire Council, Salisbury City Council, we've got a good scheme coming. In terms of a chronological point in time, Ian, do you know when, if we're successful, when are we going to know if we're successful is the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's going to be about the time we go into detailed design. We will go and present it to our investment decision committee, which is exec level within the company. So there's that finite amount of number. All regions are eligible in our region we're asking for it for Salisbury. So we will probably be looking at some point in 2027. But the importance of having the support of both authorities is essential, and likewise, the police will have an interest in this. So we're looking at 2027.
If I may add as well here, I don't get involved in the IDC, the Investment Decision Committee workings. What they will look at is how risky is this scheme? Can we deliver it? So if we can mitigate those risks at this early stage, it's looking good for us. But if some of those risks, significant risks, remain, we're probably up against it.
Great presentation. Just regarding the college roundabout, Field Lane's really good. What's the point of putting the traffic lights on there? I don't understand what that's going to control.
Traffic lights, and I know Chris is chuckling here because we have many a heated debate on this. If I can move away from calling them traffic lights, they're signals, right? They're an indication, they're an instruction to motorists. They are there primarily for safety. If we were to remove a lot of the traffic signalisation, you would have the midnight chancer trying to straight line some of those roundabouts at an inappropriate speed, and there will be accidents. The traffic signalisation helps with the flow. Primarily, it's a safety issue.
And are they going to be linked with all these others that are going to work together eventually?
Yes, Mover will link them all together.
Okay. So we'll see once all the new lights that are going at the moment are working really well, then we'll be looking forward to the next.
Sorry, was that working really well?
Yeah, they'll be working really well, I'm sure, as you said, and then we'll be looking forward to the next set.
Brilliant.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Sample?
Chris, thank you very much for the presentation. Thinking about and I am concerned about the potential threat to the watercourse. It's very, very close, that piece of road. Well, it's right, it is on the riverbank. I mean, there's no other bank for about 50 yards, 60 yards. I'm also obviously concerned about the outflow from the vehicles into the gutter and thereby into the stream there. So those are concerns that I have, as well as the 25 trees that we will lose. Will we be replacing those trees elsewhere within the city as part of this? And what will be the contribution to sustainable transport as part of this project? Is there going to be, as you've heard about, wider footpaths for the 5K run on Saturday mornings, but will we be doing something in respect of cycleway elsewhere, bus stops, and the issue of improving the experience for pedestrians there?
Yeah, thank you, Paul. Try and break that down into a number of answers for you. In essence, yes, we will be replanting trees elsewhere. The exact location where is yet to be determined for ecological mitigation. It's meant to be within the red line boundary of the scheme. Well, obviously here the red line boundary is very, very tight, as you said. So with negotiation with yourself, if there is an alternative location where we can plant up, we would gladly have that discussion with you. Totally note what you're saying. It's one of our primary considerations in that the footprint here is constrained. We are basically working alongside that river edge, the bank. So yeah, we're totally considering that. In terms of the other suggestions of mitigation that you've suggested, that will come clear in the detailed design. But what I will say to you is £25 million, whilst it sounds like an awful lot of money to us as individuals, in terms of this scheme, it is not going to go terribly far. So if the ask for mitigation is too great, it is likely that that will scupper the improvements.
I think it's also important to say that drainage from the road will not go into the stream.
we're not, the Environment Agency would have us in cells somewhere if we designed a scheme like that.
Chair, anything further comments?
Are we all happy? Thank you very, very much for your time. Thank you for your focus on Salisbury as well. We look forward to hearing further from you. Thank you. Okie dokie, so we're going to move things around a little bit. So Councillor Taylor, I think we'd have your motion next.
Thank you, Chair. You've probably seen the motion. I'll be proposing it. Councillor Nettle has kindly agreed to second it. Before I speak to it, I'd like to ask a resident, Steve Taylor, to speak to us for 3 minutes. He's got some pictures, and I think his testimony will be helpful.
Thank you.
Firstly, I'd like to thank everybody for letting me come to speak tonight. Thank you, Chris. This is about a tree where I live. It's called in Hawthorne Close. That is the tree. If you look at the picture, you can actually see exactly how big it is. It's a sycamore tree. The mess that comes off it, trees lose leaves, they go, I understand all that. But it's the other stuff that comes from that tree, the sap, comes all over cars. And you, at any time, you cannot open your windows on your cars because they'll be stuck with the sap. So obviously you have to get a hose, wash your car, then the mess it leaves with these little needles, it's not just a handful, it is loads. It's just unbelievable, the mess. Inside your house, especially, and I do it because I'm at home most of the time, and you get a lot of black on your windowsills. Now these houses are flat roofed, and I've got to have someone come out and look at my roof because I'm now getting black patches in one of the bedrooms. It could be because of the leaves, because when the tree loses its leaves, the wind picks it up, it goes over the top and into my back garden, as it does with the other houses. So you've not just got all the mess at the front, you've got it all in your back garden. And it doesn't matter how much you try and clean it up, it is a mess. And all I'm asking for, I'm not asking for the tree to be removed, I'm asking for it to be trimmed. The underneath is really bad, it's not being looked after. There are rats. I see them all the time. I've spoken to Wiltshire Council, Pest Control, over a month ago, and they said they would send someone out. As from today, they haven't sent anybody out. And I can point to the holes where these rats come out of, in the back gardens. And so we have this thing, we'll watch them run across the road.
Thank you. Let's keep on the tree. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. So this is what we would like as residents up the road, is to have it just trimmed. It is reaching into that corner, that house on the corner there. It is virtually touching the roof. Next door to me, it's down and it's virtually won't be long before it's touching that house. But it's mainly just to see if that will help trimming it, see if that will help cut the stickiness down on cars, because it can damage the car paintwork, and to make it a bit more cleaner.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. So I'd like to propose my motion, please.
I'd like to second the motion. I'd also like to make a comment as well, if I may.
And I'd like to make a further comment, please.
I think our policy, tree policy, is a very important policy, and I think that what we have to learn from these is these mature trees need to be looked after, just as we do in our parks right across the city. And I think that when we plant trees, we don't realise you know, they look very attractive and they're meaningful, but they do need looking after, and they do need to be managed. And here we've got an example we've seen in the photos. This tree is got a bit out of hand, and it's now, the branches are touching buildings and will obviously do damage to the buildings. So I think what we're looking for in proposing this motion is this cross-party idea that we look at individual cases with the new services manager and to see if there's something we can do. So it's not we're going to cut trees down all over. This is about being very, very selective on the management of our portfolio of trees. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, and thanks, Councillor Nettle. So just a little bit of history. Many of us are aware of our current tree policy. Mark used to say it's the 3 Ds. It's got to be diseased, dying or dead before we can trim it back. Mark Reed went to visit this particular tree dozens and dozens of times. I've got all the dates. Mostyn's been to look at the tree. Fortunately, we've got a new head of environment coming in just 8 months' time, beginning of July. So this is a sort of opportune moment to be having this motion in effect. We did discuss this in the Environment Committee, which is arguably the best place to deal with this. And Jenny Borwell pointed that out by email the other night. The problem with that committee, 9 of us, we viewed 3 amendments to the policy to try and tackle this kind of issue. And because of the way that particular meeting format went, trying to agree detailed amendments just didn't work. The success of the working groups we've had recently, I think, is commendable. I think Councillor Dalton kicked it all off, but Sill, Toilets, Poultry Cross. And so what I'm suggesting here, very light touch. I'm not suggesting go chopping trees down. I'm not suggesting any solution, but I do think we need to discuss this as a city council. And I think the best way that this seems to work with Sill and all these sort of difficult issues is a handful of people, cross-party, discuss it, and then in this case, I suggest bring it back to the Environment Committee for it to be further discussed and dealt with and taken forward. And hopefully the new head of environment can head all that up. So there's no decision out of this. To me, this is a very light touch motion. It's simply suggesting an opportunity for us as a council to review this policy. And I know the CEO is desperate to get this policy shortened down and made a little bit easier and fit for purpose. So now is a really timely chance to do it. So the resolution is for the council to instruct officers to set up a cross-party working group of councillors to work with the new head of environment and to propose updates to the current tree policy, which will give officers greater latitude in dealing with specific problems. The working group will provide an initial report to the Environment Committee by the 28th of September, which is when that committee next meets, which will give the new head of environment a good couple of months, which the CEO assures me will be ample time. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor. So we have a motion on the table. It's been proposed and seconded. Any comments or questions, please? Okay, Councillor Lust first, Councillor Rogers second. Okay, let's start there. Oh, and Councillor Wells.
A very simple question. Why has this motion come here and is not being dealt with by the Environment Committee? I have not followed the logic of this at all. As I see it, this should be referred back to the Environment Committee.
Councillor Rogers.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a little bit of history. Is this one of our, who's the owner of the tree? Is it on Wiltshire Council land or Salisbury City Council land?
Mostyn's own answer, okay.
It's on Wiltshire Council land, but we've got responsibility to maintain.
So this, thank you. So this is Wiltshire Council's tree, which we took on the liability to maintain. Simple as that. Let's get on and maintain it. We took that liability on, or we took that, they call it an asset. I don't know why it was an asset. It was a bundle of liabilities we took on. This is nothing to do with city council policies. This is a tree. You should be asking what are Wiltshire Council's tree policies. We've had hundreds of these across the city, similar to these, either on housing or highways land. Do we know what Wiltshire Council policy is? I can tell you what it was before it transferred. you'd have to chase them and chase them and chase them and find the right person who would issue a jobbing ticket to a contractor to go into other people's properties and sort it out. That's what we need to be done somehow. If it means going through a committee and having, debate, fine. Let's just get on and sort it out. This is not a one-off. This is across the whole city. Let's have a policy that deals with these issues.
Thank you, Councillor Wells.
Yes, on a similar theme, I completely agree that we shouldn't be discussing this at full council. I think we do need a tree policy, and if we have a working party to resolve this specific issue, we're putting ourselves in a position where we might have to have another working party to deal with another specific issue. And I think the process should be that the Environment Committee reviews the policy, and if there's a case for making an exception, it should be specified and it should be stated in the policy, then we won't have to come back and have this debate again. I'm not making a judgment one way or the other. Policy is there to support the work of council staff. If we start tinkering with policy, I think you're starting to open a can of worms you don't want to open. And I just feel that it's possible to review the policy if there's a need. And I think that's what we should be doing if that's the case.
Could I just remind councillors that this policy was reviewed and ratified by this council in the last 6 months? Just bear in mind. Councillor Foster.
Yeah, thank you. And I think fitting coming from the last three, again, I'm not against updating the policy. I'm not necessarily against a working group. I've done them for others, but I think the Environment Committee would be a fitting place to discuss this. I think my concern comes from the comment across of this isn't a one-off, this should be across all of it, is nobody in this room, and I look at officers and councillors, could tell me how many trees there are in a similar state at the moment and how much that could cost. And I think we should ask for that information or something to close that before even in committee or working group anyone should sit down and look at the policy. Because I wouldn't want to update the policy with a blank checkbook. And I think that's my concern now. It's not that we shouldn't do this, but we're not ready to do this because either we'll say no when we could say yes, or we'll say yes when we should have said no, or we'll just be lucky. And I don't like any of those options. So for me, it's, can we ask the officers to do a survey of the trees that we have taken responsibility for or are on our land, and then we can make an informed choice. I feel that's where we're at the position now. We can't make an informed choice, therefore committee or working group just sit and twiddle their thumbs at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hock.
Thank you, Chairman. I agree with what Councillor Ricky has said. It's nothing to do with the policy, because if we have maintenance of those trees, we have to do it regardless of if we have a policy or not. I remember reporting this about several years ago, and it was being done. And I think if we are a custodian of those older trees, this needs to be done. I think there shouldn't be any policy included or anything that I can recommend, but I would ask Mostyn to look into this tree and get that trimmed, as the gentleman has suggested.
Mostyn, can I just ask, and just in a sentence, the current tree policy, when you look at a tree and when you do not look at a tree, my understanding was safety.
Yes, so I think someone pointed out it's dead, dying and dangerous. So we don't do, really do more reactive work rather than proactive. So we don't necessarily go out and do pruning to keep a tree in good condition. I mean, there's over 12,000 trees within our parish boundary that we maintain. I like the idea of doing a review. I think that's a really sound idea. Just please bear in mind that will take quite a bit of time just to get that up and running, do a review and just come back with an idea of just how many trees are, properties are affected by trees. But we can do it. It just.
Councillor Rimmer, Dalton Sample.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I support doing this. I think some of the arguments being made are slightly overcomplicating the issue, because to me, I mean, I think that it's quite clear that the Environment Committee isn't necessarily the place to sort of hash out the exact amendment, the exact way that it's going to look, that the policy is going to look. I think a working group is a good way to do that, to then go back to Environment, which is what this is suggesting. And I think that Councillor Taylor's found an area where a working group could have a really good effect. And I agree that we shouldn't be doing it with a blank check, but I think that's all part of what the working group can be looking at. Surely when the working group is set up, it can ask to see how many trees we have to look at all those sorts of things. So I think that all we're being asked to do here is to agree that a working group is set up to look at whether we can improve the tree policy, which might mean that issues like this one could be solved without having to go through quite so much bureaucracy to get there. So I think it seems like a great idea. Thank you.
Brian?
Chair, thank you. Yeah, I mean, when do you start or stop a review if the policy was only looked at 6 months ago? Ricky's right. I mean, if the asset transfer from Wiltshire was taken on by this council probably in 2017 or whatever it was back then, you know, we probably should be doing what we're meant to be doing. However, I've walked numerous streets of Harlem with Mostyn, Nethampton Road. We looked at trees at the back of the head properties there. Parsonage Green, for the very reason that the district council put parking bays in. There's a tree there that leaks sap all over the cars now, and the blocks of flats at the top of Hollows Close. It's a perennial issue of trees growing and blocking views, etc., etc. It's just a difficult one because where do you draw the line? I mean, that tree clearly is massive and probably something needs doing with it. But, you know, if we suddenly have a storm tomorrow night, you know, a tornado rips through Salisbury and brings down 1,000 trees, that's probably our budget wiped out overnight. And how much money do we want to spend on, you know, a tree budget? What is it, Mostyn? Sorry.
This is 190,000.
So 190,000 is the tree budget, shall I say. But probably this ought to go back to be referred to the Environment Committee, probably set up a working group in a nice way to come up with some recommendations. But, you know, if it was reviewed 6 months ago, there's probably other more pressing policies that we should be getting on to review. And perhaps in this case, you know, let's get on and do something with this tree, to be honest. It is huge. It's the wrong tree, clearly. They wouldn't plant a tree like that in the middle of a cul-de-sac today. But, you know, members have to ask themselves, how much money do you want to spend on the tree budget? £1 million? Is that enough? 2 million? 3? You know, £500,000? And even that wouldn't be enough, would it?
Okay, we're going to go to Councillor Sample. Can I just remind everyone that this, good conversation, but if we're talking about this specific tree and we say just get on with this one tree, we're opening the floodgates to an awful lot of trees here. Can I just remind everybody this and go back to the point that all these trees, all this pruning costs a lot of money? Thank you. Councillor Sample.
Yes, I tend to agree with Ricky on this. First of all, you know, we've only just put in place a new tree policy, you know, in the not too distant past. Secondly, we've got a new member of staff coming in. And the last thing they're going to want to do is start reviewing a policy that's only been put in place, you know, 6 months ago or whenever that was. They'll have much higher priorities, learning the patch, you know, checking what the responsibilities of the city council are for, you know, the trees that we have got in place, and indeed, as Ricky pointed out, you know, those that we've inherited where there's going to be some liability. We've got a member of the public who's come to us with a problem about a tree in his close. That's what he's come to do. We don't need to set up a flipping working party to discuss whether we're going to do that. We don't need to have a flipping committee to do that. We just need to say to the officers, come on, chaps, ring up the lumberjacks, get them over here, let's see what we can do in order to solve the problem for this gentleman. Because at the moment, it's clear from what we're being told that that tree is leaking on everyone's cars, it's leaking on everyone's houses, it's creating a nasty, sticky mess. It's a real problem. We need to step up. We need to step up, not have a flipping working party as Councillor
Thank you,
Taylor
Councillor
says.
Sample. Can I again remind everyone, let's focus on the motion at hand and not an individual tree, because we all have trees, okay? Thank you. Going to Councillor Bevan next.
And quiet down, please.
Okay, all I'd like to say, got the tree policy in front of us. The council has no legal obligation to prune overhanging trees unless they are causing direct damage to an adjacent property or are dangerous. The council will not prune trees that overhang neighbour properties unless the trees are dangerous or are causing an actual nuisance. This reflects the council's position as owner of thousands of trees and the resources available. I think, as Steve has said, this could be an actionable nuisance because it is starting to affect the house. It could be causing damage to houses and also to the cars. So we could look at this point in the policy. We don't need to have a working group.
Okay, any further comments? Councillor, you have spoken. We'll wait till you've got right through someone. Okay, Councillor.
I just want to make one small comment, which I think summarises what I think everyone's saying. It doesn't seem to be a policy problem, it seems to be an enforcement problem. You know, if we've got trees that are doing naughty things, the policy already says stop them doing the naughty things. It doesn't, no amending of the policy is going to make we as the council do what we're supposed to do to the obnoxious trees. It's the enforcement. So I think, yeah, that's all I'm saying.
Okay, any further comments on this? Yes, Councillor Ryder.
The problem that we had when we discussed this previously was the word discretionary. That was the problem. And we need to be very careful, as you say, about opening the floodgates. This isn't going to be the only tree, as others have said, that are in this, causing the same problems. Maybe that's where we need to go first and look at where are these trees, can we do them all? Because is it fair to choose one tree over another tree that's doing the same problem? And that was the issue we had before, because the word discretionary, and there was talk of, right, we're going to put this amount of money aside to do discretionary work on trees. And it was basically who came first and shouted loudest would get their tree sorted, and others who maybe, and then we tried, if they were over a certain age, if they were on certain benefits, it was a whole mishmash that couldn't work, but it was the term discretionary. And that's my concern, is around that. Yes, we need to sort these trees out. These naughty trees, absolutely, we need to whip them into shape, but let's do it properly. Let's not jump. It's very easy to say, oh, let's do that tree and make one person happy. What about others? It's not that simple. I think we need to be mindful of that.
Okay, any further comments from anyone? No, Councillor Taylor, would you like to sum up?
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much for all the comments. I think for me, there's just a muppet in the room. I think what we've illustrated between us all is this isn't quite as simple as we would hope. Back in September, when the Environment Committee did discuss it, I came away from the meeting thinking the outcome would be different, so much so that I asked Mark Reed to trim the tree the following morning, only to find out we'd agreed not to change that aspect of the policy. So it is a complicated issue, and I do accept all of the comments around the room, but for those of us that have said, let's just get rid of this tree or let's trim this tree, I've been trying to do that for 18 months. I should point out that Steve Taylor is a former councillor, a Labour councillor. He's very sympathetic to the challenges we have with tree policies and we have in this room. He just wants that tree trimmed. We don't want to be doing one-offs, as Councillor Rideout has said. We don't want to be doing that. What we want to have is the opportunity for Mostyn and the new head of environment in the fullness of time to be able to approach these issues within a policy and a framework. So it's not a free-for-all, it's budgeted, it's thought through, it's disciplined. I totally accept what Councillor Rogers is saying, let's just get on and do it. But to emphasise, our current policy prevents Mostyn and his team cutting that tree. He cannot cut the tree because the policy prohibits it, and it's our policy that we've agreed to. So I'm saying it's time to discuss that policy, and the best way to discuss it, as the last 12 months have shown us, is a handful of people around the table talking about it with the new head of environment, with Mostyn's expertise, and coming up with something that the Environment Committee absolutely can then discuss and formulate and update our policy. And we haven't been able to discuss this previously because of our 6-month rule. So it was discussed in September, albeit unsuccessfully, and it's taken till now for that 6-month rule. That's why I'm bringing it up now.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor.
Okay, thank you.
Just to be clear, we've got a motion on the table to talk about setting a working group to discuss a policy that was amended and ratified 6 months ago in this, by this council. Can I just check, using my chair's privileges because I can. Councillor Taylor, do you have a budget in mind? Because currently, as we heard, we've got £190,000 spent on trees, and I know that goes every single year and doesn't cover what we currently want to do. So what sort of money would you be looking to spend?
So again, I've talked this through with Asa, our CEO. Mostyn's very anxious about it because Mostyn's standing in for the head of environment for the time being, and he doesn't want to splurge all our money. I do know that if we generously put a new policy update in place, trimming this tree on Hawthorne Close could potentially be done within this year's funds. However, I'm not expecting that. What I'm saying is have a working group, discuss it, fine-tune the policy, and then we'll be thinking about bringing it into our normal budget discussions at the end of the year for the new
Can I just
financial year.
clarify? So one tree, do we have a cost for that one tree? And we own 12,000 trees.
So, 12,000 or one, in our division, as a fellow city councillor and Councillor Charleston, this is the biggest problem we have between the three of us. This is our problem.
Again, just be really, really clear here. You must have costs for one tree because you said it would go into this budget, and we have 12,000 trees. So do you have an idea in mind how much money you're looking to spend?
So I think that's the point of the working group and the head of environment to discuss, because where we draw the line, I think we're all saying around this room that this particular tree is clearly a problem, and it would be nice if we could do something about it. Where we draw the line is important, and that's why it's not easy for the Environment Committee to just come up with something as an amendment. That's why I do think a discussion group, a working group, draw the line, work out where we do it, how we define it, to make it easy for officers to understand, so there's no debate. Councillor Ryder is quite right. If we just have a big discretionary thing in there that's so vague, it gets very difficult for officers to apply.
Thank you, Councillor. Mostyn, clearly you've had lots of conversations with Councillor Taylor about this. Do you have a budget in your head for fixing this one tree? Thank you.
So I'd have to check. I'm not sure if the tree could have a TPO on it. It could be in the conservation zone. So that obviously has an impact on how much you can reduce. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. If it's an all-round prune across the whole tree, I would think probably somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000, sort of taking off a couple of foot across the whole thing.
Thank you. Okay, so £2,000 to £3,000, we have 12,000 trees. Okay, right. So we have a motion on the table. It has been seconded. Can I have votes in favour of this motion, please? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, and against this motion, please? 8. Okay, that motion falls. Thank you very much. Right, moving on to order of precedence, please.
Thank you. So this item is just to note the order of precedence recently produced by Paul. It is on the screen for you to see. Thanks, Penny. Just scroll up a little, Penny, if we're able to. Thank you. Any questions?
No, oh, Councillor Charleston.
Actually, no, don't worry. No questions. Sure.
Okay, thank you. Noted that. Next item, annual risk management review, please.
Thank you. So I'm presenting this report on behalf of ASA, who's in Cornwall at the moment and wishes you all well. I'll tell them we all felt the same. There are 3 items to note. The report generally speaks for itself, but ASA's asked me to focus on 3 items, which are the top 3 priorities of the risk register currently, which is our IT security, our safeguarding, and the 3rd item, which is that we have identified more risks within the council. Now, that is to not alarm you. That is to simply say that our understanding of risk has improved over the last 12 months, and we're now recognising that risk and accounting for it within the risk assessment report. So you will see more risks identified and scored, That doesn't necessarily mean that the risks are greater. It just means that they are understood. Our IT and cybersecurity and our safeguarding are the two main issues at the moment that are not a concern, but are the top two items on our risk register.
Thank you. Any questions from that? Okay, Councillor Johnson and Nettle.
Just a quick question, was that actually supposed to be a document, a risk register with lots of individual risks identified attached to this first review?
Yes, it is within the report, yes.
Sorry. It doesn't necessarily appear on.
Bear with me, I'm getting there. It was. So it was where was that? I'll put it up for you, hold on.
What it should have contained is this, which I believe.
But it contains all the identified risks in order.
Okay, so that seems to have been missing from the papers that were on the website.
Apologies.
Sincere apologies for that.
Sorry, for councillors that didn't hear that, I was offering my sincere apologies. I didn't upload it, but if you want to, we can take a little bit of time now, if the chairman's okay with that, for you to review.
Happy, or alternatively, if you just like it circulated.
Yeah, the fact that it exists is obviously.
Yes, I think be reassured by that.
Yes.
Important bit. Okay, let's make sure it's circulated at this meeting. Thank you. Jeremy.
Thank you. I know that when we had our budget setting and we approved the budget, we put funds in for cyber security. I suppose my question is, and now we've seen a risk register, which we're going to get risk register, we might be able to help quantify those costs. Is the risk greater than the budget available?
I think the short answer to that is no. I think what we've done with the current control measures is we've had a significant review of our hardware and wider IT systems within the council. We've increased spend on key infrastructure, firewalls, things of such. And we've delivered against the issues identified within the latest cybersecurity audit, which has taken place. What we're looking to do following that, of course, is creation of a clear IT roadmap covering essential services and their dependencies. So a greater understanding of those interconnected adjacencies within the IT support system. So that if something happens over here, how does it affect something over here? And what business does it interrupt? And what does it mean? Should we not resolve it within a certain period of time? So it feels as if currently our budget is managing the risk of IT, but as more issues perhaps come to light, then we may have to come back and ask for additional budgets or within bids and savings or whatever the protocol for additional budgets would be.
Okay, Councillor Last.
Looking at this, it's I think a great piece of work. What I would like to have seen is, against the actions to be undertaken, some idea of long-term costs. It's not something we're going to be able to spend money on tomorrow, but I think that if we're going to take all these actions, it's something that has to be budgeted in over a period of time, and I have no idea at all about the costs of this.
Thank you, Councillor. That's noted.
Councillor Rideout.
With regard to safeguarding, it's great to see that new starters are having safeguarding training, things like that. I would still like to see statutory safeguarding training annually for all councillors, not just a one-off, and for some choosing not to ever to take part in safeguarding training, and that'd be okay, because that for me is a massive risk. And I would like that noted, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ridout. And Councillor Dalton.
Yeah, I might sort of be able to answer that because some of this has come through the governance, whatever it's called, committee now, and we've picked up on training across the board and are making recommendations that councillors, for example, I've picked up, must attend planning training before they start the planning committee. That's just one. Safeguarding, I completely agree with you. Most of the training can be done online anyway.
Should we take that away for an action for you as chair of that committee then?
I think it's already based on.
Wonderful, thank you. Anything further? Lovely. Okay, so we've been asked to note all this, and therefore we shall move on to Dewatering Bay. Mostyn, I believe this is your turn.
Good evening, everybody. We've got some slides, Benny.
Yeah, I'm just.
Thank you.
I'm quick, but not that quick.
Thank you. Can I have the next slide, please? Next one, please, Benny. That's it. Thank you. Thank you. Salisbury City Council needs a dewatering bay to support its street sweeping operations across the parish. A dewatering bay, for those of you who aren't familiar with them, is basically a way of separating sweeper waste, so the leaves and the nitrous that gets into the waste from the water, makes the waste lighter, and then you can dispose of it. Currently, we use Wiltshire Council's site in Churchfields. They've got a dewatering bay facility. Unfortunately, they've recently served us a notice, so we have to leave the site by September the 30th. There was plans for Salisbury City Council to build its own dewatering bay, and £150,000 was allocated for that. Since then, going through the processes through the Environment Agency for our permit, the spec changed significantly. There was a new spec that came through, and we had a quote off the spec, and it came out at £265,000. We've had a quantity surveyor review the quotation and found no matters of concern with how it was costed. Work commenced on the dewatering bay on the 27th of April. Next slide, please, Penny. So why will the project exceed the original budget of 150,000? As part of the works, we had to replace a retaining wall which runs the length of the depot. Like I said before, when the original budget was allocated, it wasn't a detailed specification, and the spec can change as we move forward. Next slide, please, Penny. Where was the additional funding for the dewatering bay sourced from? With leadership approval, officers reallocated £200,000 of River Park funds to top up the original £150,000 budget for the dewatering bay. Next slide, please, Penny. How much is it predicted to cost? Around £272,500 over 26-27. There is a contingency in that of 15,000, but there is a possibility that it may go slightly over. Thank you. Next slide, please. Is the project on track and likely to stay within budget? Unfortunately, during the removal of the existing wall, asbestos was found behind it, which is going to be an additional cost, which I don't know how much that's going to be at this stage. There is a £15,000 contingency within the building works for issues like this. Thank you. Time frame for the project. So work commenced on the 27th of April. The original completion date was meant to be 18th of August. But because of the delays with the asbestos and handling the asbestos and removing it, the completion date is more likely to be 1st of September. The implications of the work extending beyond the 30th of September, the street sweeping department will have nowhere to tip their waste and get rid of their sweeper waste. Could be a significant overspend with a private provider. We have managed to secure another 2 weeks extension with Wiltshire Council to use their facility. And this is the dewatering bay. So this is our depot compound area. You can see the dewatering bay is on the bottom right-hand side. You've got a wash down. You've got an area where the leaves and detritus will be left, then goes into a filtration system tank, and then it filters into the main sewer. At the very top of the page there, you've got two 20-yard skips which have to sit onto a concrete pad, and that also all has a drainage system that goes into the tank. Thank you. So this is some of the pictures we've recently done. So this is probably a couple of weeks ago now. They started to remove the wall. The asbestos was actually found, if you look on the left-hand side near where the unit is in the corner. As they were removing the wall, they discovered there was asbestos that had been buried inside the earth there. So now actually it looks quite different. I haven't got an up-to-date photo, but that now is all quite tidy, and the retaining wall now runs all the way across the yard. Next stage will be that they will tarmac the area, put a slab down for the skips, and start building the drainage. Thank you. So yes, any questions, please?
Okay, thank you very much, Mostyn. So there's any questions? Yes, Councillor Bevan.
Why did they have to redo the retaining wall? What was the reason for that?
The retaining wall, the original retaining wall was it was in very poor state, and it was in places it was cracking and it was leaning. In order to put the skips where you wanted to position them and put the concrete pad, we had to do the retaining wall. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to do the retaining wall afterwards, unfortunately.
Okay. Do we know the skips were going there from the beginning of the project?
That came more of the second half of the specification.
Didn't really think about it.
Councillor Charleston.
Thank you. It's not really a question, I suppose, it's just more of a statement. I know that this isn't you, Mostyn, I know it's not. I think we need to ask, though. I think I remember asking last time this came, there's a line in that spreadsheet that says, costs went up because we didn't plan for it, we didn't do a detailed enough plan. You can't answer the question, why didn't we do a detailed enough plan at the time? Maybe you can answer the question like, are we making sure that we're doing these detailed enough plans for these things in the future? This has been going on and on and on and on, seemingly forever. I can't remember a time where I wasn't thinking about the dewatering bay in some form or another. I'm really pleased that it's getting to the point where it's going to be finished. I'd love to avoid another dewatering bay with any of these sorts of things in the future. Is that something you can reassure me about?
Yes, I think the reason there was so much change is I think it was through the application of the EA permit. I think when originally we moved into the depot, they did a plan of where the dewatering bay would go, and there was a pricing off that, which I believe informed the 150,000. I think as the project moved on, I think it was a realisation that there was a lot of ticks we had to do from the Environment Agency to be a registered site, and that's how it spiralled on. But I appreciate your comment, and I agree. And yes, we are looking for things in a lot more detail these days. We look to try and get the specification in first before we move forward, and hopefully before we set budgets. That's the key.
Can I ask a question? So you say you're taking £200,000 out of the River Park project funding. I'm pretty sure it was you, Mostyn, that did the whole budget for that money a few years ago. What's that going to do in terms of the upkeep of the River Park project and what that money's supposed to be for?
Actually, there's another paper on the River Park S26 which should answer those questions.
I look forward to it. Any other questions or comments on dewatering? No, thank you. So again, we're being asked to endorse the Environment Committee's agreements to this. Can I see a show of hands, please, that we're happy to inform officers to take this forwards? Thank you very much. Okay, you can stay in the hot seat, Mostyn, River Park, please.
Thank you. So yes, this is the paper for the River Park and the report. So the proposal, so on the 29th of September 2025, the Environment Committee agreed the allocation of £75,000 of the River Park S106 funding for a purchase of a tractor. The officer recommendation to allocate the remaining River Park S106 funding over a 15-year period. In accordance with the council's financial regulations, only full council can approve changes in earmarked reserves. This report seeks such approval. Recommendation is to endorse the Environment Committee's agreement that the officer's recommendation is set out in the minutes of that meeting and approve the associated changes to reserves. So to answer your question, Councillor Charleston, as of the 31st of March 26, River Park S106 balance was £695,000 from April 26, with the £200,000 which was allocated to fund the tollgate depot dewatering bay, leaves a balance of £495. The proposal is, subject to council approval, that £75,000 will be allocated for the purchase of a new tractor. This would reduce the remaining balance to £420,000. It's proposed that the remaining £420,000 be profiled evenly over a 15-year period commencing in 2027-28, equating to £28,000 per annum.
Is that enough?
Yes. So we used to maintain that area with our existing team anyway. Obviously, there's a bit more to it now. It's the River Park, but yeah, I feel we can do it. Yes.
Anybody else got any questions on this? Yes, Councillor Foster.
Yeah. What's the dewatering bay got to do with the River Park?
Without the dewatering bay, we wouldn't be able to sweep the paths and the roads around the River Park. So all comes in with it. In our facility to operate, we really need that dewatering.
Okay, so that's the justification of using this money, that 200,000 is.
Yes.
The roads and sweeping around that area, and the rest of the city will benefit as well, but that's the.
Yes.
Councillor Lowes, did you have your hand up?
Yes. Who is the who is the current contractor for all this work?
For the depot dewatering bay, or for
the work in Elizabeth Gardens?
no, sorry, this relates to the River Park project.
Sorry, the watering bay.
But so it's our D&M construction.
Thank you.
Councillor Rideout.
So the 28,000, it will be able to maintain it looking like it does now, because it does look fabulous, doesn't it? It does, walking is such a pleasure along there, and you're saying it will continue to look just like that?
Yes,
Decades to
that's
come?
the plan, yes.
Amazing, thank you.
There will be a period when obviously the money will run out, but the structure will come into our pre-planned maintenance, so it will be within that additional PPM budget moving forward as well.
Okay, thank you very much. So again, we have to endorse the Environment Committee agreement to this. Can I show our hands for that, please? Lovely, thank you very much. Okay, on to Queen Elizabeth Gardens.
Okay, so the purpose of this report is to ask full council to approve the transfer of £39,830 from Section 106 Queen Elizabeth Gardens to general reserves to provide revenue in 26-27 in order to discharge the council obligations. This report provides the background options, financial implications, legal governance, considerations, risks, and recommended course of action to support informed decision making. There is £39,830 of remaining Section S106 funding allocated for the maintenance of the footbridge at Queen Elizabeth Gardens. Officers are seeking council's approval to transfer this funding into the council's general reserves to go forward towards the replacement of at least one of the footbridges. Recommendations is to approves the transfer. It's recommended that full council approves the transfer of £39,830 remaining funds for the Queen Elizabeth Garden S106 to general reserves in order to replace at least one of the bridges.
Okay, so moving money that is for Queen Elizabeth Gardens into a pot you can use for Queen Elizabeth Gardens bridges.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. Thank you.
Councillor Brown, yes, and then Councillor Foster, then Councillor Nettle.
It all seems very reasonable. Is that the cost of fixing one of the bridges? It happens to be exactly £39,000, or is it just because that's the money that's in the pot and let's have it?
Yes, it will cost more than
Will it?
£39,000.
Fix
Yes.
one bridge?
Yes.
Well, okay, I remain surprised.
It's both of the footbridges, the small footbridges and the park need replacing.
Expensive.
Councillor Foster.
As I say, there's almost then more detail of timeframe of these bridges need replacing and by when.
So they're coming to the end of their life. We recognise they need replacing. I've been discussing with contractor around prices for it, and I've had one quote. I'm seeking another quote for it, and I'll balance that and decide how to go forward.
Councillor Nettle.
Thank you. Yeah, there are 3 bridges, of course. One is maintained by Wiltshire Council, and that's probably the worst state. So I would ask our Wiltshire Council representatives here to try and push that forward. These 2 bridges are very, very well used. Mostin and his team have repaired them several times, even given them a liquor coat of paint. And you can see that they're coming to the end of their life. It's used by many walkers, children, and so fully support the idea of replacement. I think the importance is that, and as Martin has said, at least one. That's very good wording, really. Because I would say that both do need replacing. If you replace one, you're going to shortly, because eggs are eggs, you're going to need to replace the other because they're the same age. So I think he's being a little bit cagey on that, and I understand why, and so it's no criticism. But fully support this, and hopefully we can get 2.
Councillor Dalton.
Yeah, it's just a question, Mostin. Please get more than 2 quotes. We need more than 2 quotes, at least 4, I would suggest. I can't get my head around why we're wanting to transfer Section 106 monies from one account to another if we're going to spend it on repairing the bridge, unless that triggers the non-handing it back to the developer.
I believe we need full council approval to spend that money yes, that's why. So it has to be moved into general reserves and we need your approval to do so.
So you're asking us then, the question is, you want to spend on a new bridge, you're asking us to spend that money on a new bridge effectively, is what you're saying. Correct.
Thank you. Just very quickly, I think Councillor Brown just touched on a very important point about getting the quotation. Instead of getting one, please get as many as possible.
Thank you, Councillor, we have that's been done, yeah. Okay.
The reason I was asking is, for a tree to also, just going back on the tree subject, £2,000-3,000 sounds a lot of money, if you ask me. So I think
Yeah,
4 or 5
thank you. We've
quotation
covered
on
this point.
anything
Let's
is
move
really
on.
good.
Anybody else got anything to say?
Could I just mention, please, that there are a few companies out there who actually provide bridges, so I'm quite limited. I've identified 2 so far, and I think I'm going to struggle for a third, but I will do my best to do so. There's a time frame to this. We don't want to be doing it in the winter. Obviously, it's summer at the moment, the ground's hard. We can get a vehicle in there to crane a bridge off and lower it into place. I won't be able to do that when the...
Quickly come back, if I may, there must be somebody in Wiltshire that could assist to deal with bridges. Ricky, I mean,
I'm sure
Wiltshire
Moss is
Council
doing
got
his very best on
hundreds
this,
of
and I think he
bridges
has he's heard from councillors that they want a good, the best value for money.
Absolutely, yes, thank you.
Matt, yes.
Just to say that we would make sure that any quotations or any compliance that we would need to meet in order to provide proper quotations will be done through procurement, our partners, so we would take their advice on best practice.
Okay, any further comments or questions about this particular pot of money? No? Okay, so we are being asked, we're being asked to approve the transfer of that £39,830, which is Queen Elizabeth Gardens S106 money, into general reserves so that we can replace at least one of the bridges. Can I say have show of hands for approval of this? Lovely, thank you very much. How exciting. Okay, St Peter's Place.
Do you want me to read the whole report or just pick out the summary?
Let's summarise, please.
Okay, thank you. So yes, the report summary, this relates to Section 106 planning obligation associated with the St Peter's Place development agreed between the Simmons Homes and the Planning Authority. The agreement makes a provision for the transfer of 2 football pitches to the City Council, together with a financial contribution to support the ongoing maintenance of the pitches and the construction of a changing room facility. Members are asked to determine whether the council should agree in principle to the planning obligations to own and maintain the football pitches, to construct and maintain the changing rooms, and receive the associated financial contribution.
Okay, I think this is one that should have a positive, we should be received positively by the room, but have anyone got any comments or questions at this point? Absolutely. Councillor Rogers.
I don't want to speak ahead of Ed or, no, you want to, because it's not my ward, but I just want to make sure we understand that figure, that nearly £800,000. In the last time I looked that on the changing rooms in the community room, which is what, you know, the community have been asking for up there. So do we know the breakdown? Do you know, was it around 250,000 was the capital and then the rest was for the ongoing maintenance of the pitches?
So it's £446,611 for the maintenance of the football pitches and £352,668 for the construction of the changing room facility.
Thank you, Martin. You know, this is great news. 10 years we've been waiting for this. We're desperately short of grass pitches. Wiltshire FA want to put some money into maturing those pitches and getting them into use. So this is really good news. We just need to make sure we get the right community building and changing rooms for that community. And I shouldn't say this, but I hope this might be part of the Pride in Place, one of the projects to make that, you know, an exciting project for that part of Bemerton Heath.
Thank you, Councillor Rimmer, Councillor Nettle, Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. I think it's great. I think it's much needed, and as Ricky said, it's taken a long time, and people are very keen for this to happen. And I think it has a lot of community benefit to it. You know, it says in the report, lots of community benefit to it aside from the obvious being used for football changing rooms, etc. So I think it's great. My only question I had was, I'm just trying to find it now. Paragraph 6.3. I'm just slightly concerned about that, saying that if it's incorporated into the base budget, the 446 could also be used for the changing rooms. Why? Could you just explain to me why that's in the report? Because I don't imagine that is planned to be in the base budget, is it?
We foresee that we could maintain the 2 sports pitches with existing budgets and staff resource. So effectively, there's that pot of money available, which could be used to top up the build costs for the pavilion.
Right. So you mean if it goes over the cost, that we could use some of it for that? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, it could be contributed towards it. So you'd have the full £799,297.
Gotcha. Well, as long as the same amount of money comes from whichever direction, I guess it doesn't make much difference. So that makes sense. Thank you. Yeah, fully support it. I think it's great.
Thank you, Councillor Nettle.
I think it's great. As Ricky says, you know, it's 10 years in the making, and well done, everybody, for their support. I just want to ensure that the build meets the Salisbury City planning guidance, and that there will be a solar panel and battery for this building when the specification comes out. Because at most planning meetings, we ask everybody else to do this, so we should use this to set an example. Thank you.
I think it's a really exciting opportunity to get the community completely involved and really showcase what the City Council wants to be. Councillor Johnson, then Councillor Bayliss. Yes.
Sorry, I'd like to thank Ricky for his first contribution. It was obviously his
in his ward when this planning application went in. 2012 is quite a long time ago. I lived there at the time. I remember when all this was fields. The requirements for community facilities were fairly vaguely put on paper back then. I don't think there is a plan as such that has not got draft submitted to Wiltshire Council. Just for clarity, we're not talking about 2 football fields as in a measurement. It is a senior pitch and a very small junior pitch. So just for clarity, that's not quite, it might not be quite what people are expecting. And there is no detail as to what constitutes a changing room, other than that maybe you could fit two teams in it. What is clear is that item 10, next steps, it really ought to highlight, consult with St Peter's Place residents and determine the requirements of the users. In that section, we need to go back to the people that live there now, because there's 900 properties, and there are various different pieces, various different groups that use it. Met our Salisbury Challengers tug of war team training there at the weekend. They obviously will have different requirements than just to play football. We also need to acknowledge that at the time this went in, Sarum Academy was planning a small expansion. They have now got a 3G AstroTurf pitch there with floodlights, changing rooms obviously. Wiltshire Council have put in outline planning permission for a 3-phase expansion of Sarum Academy. The 3rd phase includes a full-scale turf senior pitch as well. So we should be fairly well served for football pitches around St Peter's Place. So I think that it was really clear that Wiltshire Council and City Council need to go back to the residents and ask them exactly what they want. Because absolutely everyone in St Peter's Place would say, I don't really need a change room because I've got a shower at home. What we really need is a little village hall where we can have a children's party, whatever, or even set up something like a paddle or pickleball, or we can do indoor activities all year, that kind of thing. So we need to consult.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. I think I've heard that nice and loud and clear. Councillor Bayliss, and then Councillor Foster.
I don't need to say anything now. Thank you.
Even better. Okay,
Could
yes.
I'm not sure we can change the usage of it. I'm not sure that's possible through the process. I think it's a document. I think if we decide that we don't want to take it on, the council decides it doesn't want to take it on, I think it'll probably need to be built and then it be managed by a management company. That's how I understand it. Steve, would you agree? Yeah. Thank you.
I think my feeling from council is not that we don't want anything built, it's that we want changing rooms plus. I think that's what residents are asking for. We want,
Oh, I do apologise.
Yeah. We want bigger and better and brighter and bolder.
Thank you. Right, thank you.
Yeah. Councillor Foster.
I was going to say, because on that one, I would invite anyone looking at examples here to go up to Longhedge, because there is a beautiful changing rooms there and a lovely football pitch there, surrounded by metal fencing, because they didn't consult residents and it was in the plan and they built it. And actually when our local scout group tried to reach out and say, could you adapt this so it could become a little village hall, scout group could take it on with your changing rooms. History said no, and it is now managed and empty and nobody wanted to take on a changing rooms because no football team needed it. So I think it's a very pertinent point of going to the residents and saying, yeah, fine, we've got to tick these boxes, but actually 90% of the time it doesn't need to be a changing rooms, because otherwise we'll have another white elephant, I fear, as we have just north of the city.
Have already spoken, Councillor Nettle.
I have, but I was going to say there is an example that we had in Victoria.
No, Councillor Nettle, you have already spoken. We're going to keep it tight tonight. Thank you. Any further? No, lovely. Okay. Oh,
Sorry,
Sorry,
so I don't think I made this clear. So what we're looking for is an agreement in principle at this stage. We haven't been, we're talking to Wiltshire Council, the developer has come forward and asked the question. If you agree in principle, then we'll work with Wiltshire Council getting the documents up together and to legal agreement.
so just being very clear for everybody. So we are being asked to agree in principle, as Austin says, the transfer of the 2 football pitches at St Peter's Place and return to the existing Section 106 agreement, so fulfilling those obligations. Agree in principle to accept the financial contributions totaling almost £800,000 to fund the pitch maintenance and construction of a changing rooms facility plus, ahead of an official legal agreement with Wiltshire Council, and then we would start the process of consultation and discussion and actually what we want. Are we happy to accept that? Could I have a show of hands, please? Wonderful, thank you very much. We're going to just push forward to the last item now, so scheme of delegation. I think, Matt, that's up to you.
Yeah, thank you. Fairly straightforward, this.
Could we have quiet, please? Thank you.
Thank you. So fairly straightforward, this. Just putting forward a committee report. It speaks for itself, really. I think what we're saying is that there has been an amendment to the scheme of delegation, and that is that the responsibility for the management of the crematorium and cemetery is transferred from the environments team to the business team. It's felt that that responsibility, both commercially and operationally, is better placed within the business team. So it's just to note that change.
Any questions on this? Yes, Councillor Dalton.
Chair, thanks. I know it's simple, as the officer said, and I've read the report, and many things appear simple to me anyway. But I assume that the leader, this has been discussed with the leader of the council and not just come here tonight for us to agree it.
Yes. Yes, it has.
Then that probably ought to be reflected in the report as well, and I can't see it in the report.
Thank you.
So if the leader's content, it's been discussed with the leader, then fine. I was going to suggest that probably some of this ought to have gone to some committee first before it come here, but I'm content with that. So I'll do it first, because nobody seems to have said I'll move recommendations, whatever, but so this evening on all the reports, but I move the recommendations 2.1.
I will second that.
Thank you.
And a show of hands to support. Lovely. Okie dokie. With that, that brings our meeting to a close at 8:33 this evening. Thank you very much.